Hello, welcome to the Evening Social, brought to you by the Jegna Klub. I am Coach Mo. The Evening Social is brought to you by the Jegna Klub. Jegna Klub is an organization who thrives in building a community of individuals who have the entrepreneurial mindset and that are economically independent. The platform we do that through is the Evening Social, where we show our youth and families individuals who look like them from their community who are thriving in a professional manner. Our guest tonight, introduce yourself.
My name is Chris Dunlap. I am excited to be here. We go back a long way, so anytime you ask me to do something, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna come through for you. But yeah, I'm excited to do this.
Well, I appreciate it. We do go back a long ways, and I do always appreciate you helping me out. I got to say, I'm very excited, and I'm going to say sometimes I have to put these on. I'm getting older.
I'm almost at that point too. Sometimes I'm like, what's that letter? Yeah,
my arms aren't long enough. Yes, but we do go back. I'm very excited to have Chris here today for several reasons, and we'll get into those. One thing I always like to say is that here what we're going to do is part of what gender means is power and the truth. So we're going to speak truth. Some people say it's hard conversations, but what we're going to do is we're going to have conversations, some candid questions, but we're going to talk about ups and downs because what we really want to do is be transparent for our students and families to see what has got you to the point that you are, and that you have some things going up that they're going through that they can kind of emulate the way that you handled it so they can get to where they're going.
Right on.
Okay. Now, before we do get into the nitty-gritty, I always like to kind of break the ice.
All right.
And I have a few we call them fun questions that we ask.
Don't get me in trouble now.
Well, I'm going to try not to do that. So, let's say this. I can ask you this one. What's the closest thing to real magic?
The closest thing to real magic?
Yeah.
Man, it's almost, depending on your definition of what magic is, the closest thing for me to real magic is seeing that thing that you have faith in come to fruition.
I like that. Okay. All right. What do you think will finally break the internet?
Wow. Probably a nuclear weapon. Right? Something that can affect everything across the globe at one time will break the internet in the literal sense. Okay. In the other sense, probably Kanye going back to a black woman.
That might do it.
I saw some pictures of him with Candace Owen, and we had a laugh about that, like, oh man, okay, that'd be crazy. That might break it.
Okay.
Or Joe Biden doing something for black people.
All right, we go to the next question.
All right,
I'm going to go to the next.
Yeah, so I'm going to. Yeah.
All right. Now this one, okay, I got to ask you this one. I wasn't going to ask you, but I'm going to ask you this one. I'm going to ask. What celebrity would you rate as a perfect 10?
A celebrity that I would rate as a perfect 10? Oh, that's tough. Man, if we going off of looks alone and maybe the vibe of the celebrity, I would say Halle Berry, but she crazy. But if we can tame the crazy, I'd probably say Halle Berry is a perfect 10.
Okay, you reach back. Halle Berry. I didn't expect that one.
Yeah.
I understand why, but I didn't expect that one. I thought you was gonna reach out to one of these younger.
Nah, Halle's the ultimate crush coming up. That's the crush. Her and Jada, but definitely not Jada at this point in life. But
okay,
yeah.
Halle. Okay, yeah. All right. Monster ball. Huh? Okay, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna stop. All right. Let's go. What ridiculous thing has someone tricked you into doing or believing?
Into doing or believing? Oh man, I got to go back to the crates on this one. I was about, maybe 5 or 6 years old. Man, I was at the bus stop with my brother, right over there off of 30th and Wood. And it was this house that had this little retaining wall, right? And there was this tree there with a low-hanging branch, right? And my brother was like, man, you could do it. You should jump off the tree like Tarzan and grab the branch and swing. I'm the little brother, right? I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'm about to impress my big bro. Man, I jumped off that thing, grabbed that branch, and the next thing I know, I was waking up in the hospital. My mama ready to kill both of us. It was crazy.
Okay.
That
So
was ridiculous.
I gotta ask you, was you still listening to today?
Nah, not as much.
Not as okay.
Not on my own will. Like if he threatened me, maybe. But
Okay,
yeah,
okay. All right, let's see. Two more. I got two more for
All
you.
right, cool.
What is the most interesting thing you've read or seen this week?
Man, the most interesting thing I've read or seen this week. Oh, you know what? We watched this movie. Was probably the most interesting thing. It's not interesting, but I just, every time I watch something, I kind of pull a nugget out of it, and I don't want to give it away to everybody, but it was this movie called Army of the Dead. Crazy movie about zombie apocalypse, and they got hired by this Japanese dude to go raid this vault in a casino. And it's gonna be a spoiler alert, so I'm sorry, man. I hope y'all watch it before this airs.
Okay.
At everybody's going after this money, and at the end of it, the main guy, one of the main guys, thought he survived. Right? He got away with all the money. He was the only one left. Private plane, and he started feeling ill. Went to the bathroom, looked in the mirror, and realized that he had gotten bit by a zombie. So it's like, man, I made it out of all this, and I see I got a bite. And it just, the nugget I got out of it is like sometimes we run through life chasing money, right? And at the end of the day, you can't take it with you, right? And sometimes we chase it so much to where we neglect other things like family, your health, or whatever it may be. And by the time it's time for you to enjoy it, since that was always your singular focus, it's almost too late. So that's what I took from it. Yeah.
It's kind of like, I don't know if I'm saying it right. What good is all the riches in the world, but you lose yourself.
Exactly. A profit of man for sure.
Okay, I like that. Last one. If you could know the absolute and total truth to one question, what would you ask?
Man, probably the same question everybody would ask. At least for me, coming up, right, is did Jesus really exist? And everything that we've been taught coming up, is that real? Or are we just living this thing, trying to do it the right way for a reward that's supposed to be on the other side for nothing?
Okay, that's a good question. I don't think that would be mine, but that's a good question.
That would be mine.
That's a good question.
I think that dictates a lot of people's life, right?
It does. It's a good question.
Yeah.
Very good question. I think I'd be asking about how do you live forever?
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If there's no way to do that, then okay. But if there's a way to do that, I want to know.
Yeah, but if there's not a way to live forever, you also will want to know if the way that I'm living is going to get me to where I'm supposed to be or the wrong place at the end of all this.
That's a good question.
Yeah, so.
And I agree with that, but I want to know
if it's possible. I don't think I would want to live forever, man. You see all those vampire movies where they see everybody that they've ever come in contact with dying. Oh yeah, that's a lonely life to live forever.
But if one person live forever, that means a generation of other people can live forever.
It'll be too expensive because if you figured it out, you're gonna charge a premium for it. That's just the human way, man. You're gonna charge a premium for it. Anybody would.
Nah.
Eternal life, you're gonna charge a premium for that.
If I don't really like it, I'm like,
You get bored, man. You know what I'm saying? You get bored living forever. Like, what else can you do? Like, I want to die.
I don't know about that. We have to talk about that on different subjects.
All right, on.
I don't think I'll get bored with forever.
Okay, we'll see.
We'll talk about it.
All
right. So before we get started with some other questions, tell me, so what is it that you do for a living?
For a living, I'm in software sales. So I'm in high tech. I work for one of the top 3 tech firms in the world. I sell cloud solutions and services to companies. I have a book of about 18 companies that I work with to help them transform their business, primarily moving things to the cloud.
Okay. All right. For those who are watching this, and some of us who are, not as tech savvy and word savvy, explain what the cloud is.
The cloud.
We do have some kids that
Yeah. So the cloud is basically, honestly, you're just renting somebody else's data center, right? A data center is where computers and servers and everything are hosted, like companies' data, right? Hence the word data, and server capacity, where you're storing all your applications and things that run your back end of your business. Instead of you building that out for yourself like we used to, like you had these big old IBM mainframes, things like that. Now larger companies build out these facilities and you rent space out on their servers, and they call it the cloud. And for like startups and smaller businesses, it's a lot more cost effective for them to do that. Even for larger businesses who don't want to reinvest in technology because it's always evolving, you leave it up to somebody else and just rent their space.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's I like that. Okay. So tell me, where were you born?
Wanda County boy. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. I can't remember what hospital. Maybe Providence. I think maybe. Yeah,
Okay.
Providence. I know that most of my life I was raised off of 30th and Wood down in KCK. From there, we moved out to the higher numbers in Brookstone Apartments. No, take that back. Before Brookstone, it was 61st Street. And then, Brookstone Apartments is where I spent most of my life until about sophomore year. And then we moved out on 82nd Street, and that's where I spent most of my life. I mean, the latter part of my life before going off to college. Came back from school, moved back down to the house on 30th Street because we still own that one. Lived down there with my brother for a little bit, and that's my thing. Being a Wanda boy.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So a couple things we want to talk about growing up. Tell me about the grade school you attended.
I went to White Church Elementary, which is interesting, right? Because I grew up off of 30th and Wood. I should have went to Chelsea, but my mom's worked at the VA hospital, so it was easy for her to kind of drop us out, off of school out in White Church on their way out there. So we was able to go out that way instead of down at Chelsea. And then from there, middle school, I went to Coronado, which is Gloria Willis now, so Coronado Colt.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you went to?
And then I went to Sumner Academy.
Okay.
Sumner Sabres.
That's where I met you.
Yeah, that's where you met me. You was my hard-nosed coach. Then I remember when I first met you, I think we had a little spat one time and seen your arm tattoo. I was like, oh, he's from the same hood as from some of my family, so I know he a thoroughbred. So, and then from there, I actually left Sumner my junior year, and ended up graduating from Harmon.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember.
From Harmon, J.C. Harmon, so yeah.
All right. So let's talk about growing up. Describe to me your relationship with your parents. First, let's talk about your relationship with your mother.
My relationship with my mother was great, right? She was the one in the household. My pops wasn't there. He lived out in Cali when I was growing up, so it was just my mom's in the household until my stepdad came into the picture. But yeah, mom's. I mean, we just had a great relationship. You know what I'm saying? She was the one, right? She was the backbone. She was like the big mama of our family. You know what I'm saying? We had cousins and aunties that lived with us. We was packed in about 8 deep in a 2-bedroom over off of 30th and Wood. With the aunties and cousins living with us for quite a bit of our life. So had a good relationship with my moms. Like I said, my pops wasn't there. I didn't meet my pops until in person. I want to say 27.
Okay.
26 or 27, I went out to Cali and finally met him. I had a conversation or two, with him, very brief. Thank you. Very brief when I was in college, like 1 or 2 conversations was just more like, this is who? Yeah, I don't know you like that. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't really have that desire to really get to know him. And then as I got older and got more mature, I was like, why not? Right? So we flew out to Cali, met him, had a decent time, and now we have a pretty solid relationship.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you answered both questions.
Yeah.
But I got to ask you this. Growing up, now you can look back.
Yeah.
Growing up, what role did that play in some of the decisions that you made? The relationship with mom or the non-relationship with dad? Like, what role did that play in the decisions that you made?
Man, I think, so I was always conscious of decisions that I made to where my decisions had to be smart decisions, right? Because I never wanted to let my moms down, you know what I'm saying? Because she raised us right? She kept us in the church and everything, and she raised us right. But, I was also still a young kid in Whatnot County, so without having a pops there, even with a stepdad there, right? My stepdad, he was out and about, right? So he was doing what he did. He didn't give us the best guidance growing up. Not to take anything away from him, because it takes a real person to step up and take over somebody's responsibility. So I give him a lot of credit for some of the things that he taught us. But with having, no, I'm good, thank you.
I'm gonna want some of both of them.
Yeah.
Italian and
Yeah, but the other side of it, I did make some questionable decisions because moms was working all during the day. I get out of school, there wasn't a lot of supervision there, so part of it was raised by older cats in the streets, right? And looking up to them, looking up to my brothers, my older cousins that was out in the streets and stuff. So I had an interesting balance, right? I had the good mom, I can't take that away. The household was good. I had the church upbringing, but I also had that allure and that pull of wanting to jump off the porch, you know what I'm saying? And I had friends that, so we dabbled a little bit in a lot of things. So, but for me, I always, like I said, I was always conscious enough of not letting my mom's down and crushing her. So my decision making was a little smarter than a lot of my friends, and I think that's why I was able to play close to the fire but not get burned by it.
Okay. Well, that's good. So, a lot of times, a lot of our youth growing up, they're in a similar situation.
Yeah.
One of the parents is not in the picture. Sadly, most of the time it's dad for whatever reasons.
Yeah.
Incarceration, divorce, not being there, whatever. And so it's good for them to see that
Right.
that you went through the same thing, but you were able to honor some of those things. Because I know a lot of different emotions.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
A lot of anger growing up, of course, right? And that's one thing I do want to say. Like for me, I don't know the whole story. I never really had the desire to know the whole story of what happened with my mom and my dad because it didn't, I didn't think that would change nothing. But what I will say is he spent a significant amount of my life in prison. You know what I'm saying? So that I'm sure played a part of to why he wasn't around. You know what I mean? For a lot of it. But yeah, you definitely go through a range of emotions. But one thing I will credit my step-pops is I was never, and I think a lot with me in my decision-making, I was never a crash test dummy because I was always taught to not be a follower. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's what also kept me out of a lot of trouble that most people fall into because I never was a crash test dummy. You weren't going to send me on a mission. You know what I mean?
Well, that's good. I gotta get to seeing. You gotta taste this.
Yeah, for sure. I'm about to dive in. I didn't know when to break in to
go
do
ahead,
that.
break in. This is like over a meal, man. We're gonna sit down like we were just sitting down eating at a restaurant.
Right on.
So I gotta get you tasting and you let me know. Because I know you told me that you were vegetarian, so I had him told him about that and get something together.
Ooh, got some kick.
Yeah, it's got a little kick. It's occasion.
No, that's good, man. And I appreciate you all going an extra mile to accommodate that. But yeah, that's good. It got some kick, but it's flavorful, for sure.
So we got the Cajun pasta and salad. This is brought to us by Andre Doon and Taste of Flavor.
Right on. Yeah, this is good. Definitely got taste of flavor in it.
Good. I'm glad you like it.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, as we move, we discussed how that's coming up. Now we're talking about you get to middle school.
Yeah.
You get into middle school. You're at what would be Gloria Willis.
Yeah.
A couple years there. Tell me some of the activities that you were involved in.
Man.
I mean, through school.
I get what you're saying. In middle school, for me, really was just like sports, intramural basketball. I never played on a team or anything. I wasn't good back then. I was, I wasn't very good at basketball back then. I never really started getting into sports honestly until maybe my 8th grade year. It just wasn't a thing for me. In the neighborhood, you'll shoot around, throw some shots and everything, but I wasn't like everybody else. Like, man, I'm a hooper. I want to play ball. That just wasn't my thing. You know what I'm saying? Until I got almost into high school. Right. So for me, it was, man, that's pretty much it. Intramural, we played in intramural sports and things like that. But outside of that, it wasn't a lot of options to be into a lot of things at school, home ec and stuff like that. But I can't say we had a lot of options to be in different programs.
Okay, so now, I don't know if you remember, we had some conversations.
Yeah.
No, so that's where I'm at. So not a lot going. I heard what you said. But what kept you from jumping all the way off the porch? Now you're in middle school.
Yeah,
things are changing.
Yeah, middle school, man. Going into middle school was probably when everything really changed for me to be, all right, I'm gonna dabble a little more out here, right? That's when you really getting there's some grown young kids in middle school, right? I don't know, man. I think for me, like I said, I always had this ticker inside of me, right, to where I knew I wanted to be something different. You know what I'm saying? Again, it goes back to the point I made. Like, I played close to the fire, but I knew not to put my hand on the stove, right? I knew it was hot, and I get close to the heat, but I don't know. I just always had that thing about me to where I was like, yeah, I ain't gonna do that. You know what I'm saying? For what? You know what I'm saying? I know where that's gonna lead me. I always had this balance inside of me, and I think what happens in a lot of times is that in our community, we do a lot of acting off of impulse and acting off of emotion, and for me, that was never the case. I always was analytical before I made any type of move on something, so I never really did the whole impulse acting. You know, even to the point where I would try to talk a few people off the ledge, like, bro, I don't think you really want to do that. You know what I'm saying? And for me, I think I always had the confidence in myself, like, that don't make me a mark or anything. You know what I'm saying? It just means I ain't no dummy. You know what I'm saying? So right. I always had that in me too. So I think that's really what kept me. I just had that ticker, and I would imagine it came from the things that my mom's instilled in me growing up.
Okay. So one thing I always admired about you is the fact that you have a it's just different, a self-confidence about yourself that most people don't have, especially at that age.
Yeah.
And especially from the situations that coming up, you know, you were okay with speaking up. Yeah. You were okay with, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a good thing. You know, and so I guess that's kind of one of the things I'm wanting to bring out, because for our youth, they have to understand that standing out and being able to say no is okay. It's not being a nerd. It's not being a, you know, it's actually being a man or being a woman.
Yeah, for sure.
To be able to speak up for yourself and know when, no, I'm not doing that. Hey, you know, I know I was here, but I ain't going all the way over there.
I mean, that's the truest definition of standing 10 toes, right? Because you're gonna stand on your own convictions, right? And
correct.
Not to encourage this, but it was like, also had decent hands, so it was okay. if I said no and I got tested, it was okay. We can handle it however way. But yeah, I think that's the truest definition of standing on something for sure.
Good. Okay. So now talk to me about the choice of going to Sumner, and I got to put this in there. Sumner has been viewed in a couple different ways. For a long time, Sumner was viewed, and a lot of students who could have went to Sumner, it wasn't cool to go to Sumner. Sumner is the school where the nerds go. Sumner is the school where the brainiacs go. You know, so what made the choice? But that's just a view. That's not the truth. That's a view. Then for a while, it was cool. Everybody wanted to go to Sumner and be at Sumner, you know. Then it went back to the wave. It's changed. It's almost like a fad, you know. So just explain to me what made the choice of going to Sumner for you.
So I had an older brother that went to Sumner, right? So it was almost in the family there. And even before it was an academy, you know, I had family that had gone to the old Sumner, I think it was the Trojans, right before it was in the
Spartans.
The Spartans, there we go. Before it was Sumner Academy. And then my mom's, right? She was like, if you're going to take the test and you get in, you're going to go, right? It was no choice at that point. Like, I'm not going to go even though I make it in. So it's like, all right, fine. I'll go take the test. And I got accepted, and it was really no choice but to go to Sumner.
Well, I just want you to know, I saved you. Because if anybody, go to Sumner, heard you say Trojans, it'd be,
yeah, my bad. I knew it was Sumner. My bad. No disrespect, for sure.
I'm just talking.
Yeah. So that was my decision, right? Well, push decision, right? I guess it was my decision, because I could have just went in there and blew the test if I wanted to. And then even, you know, the principal at Coronado at that time also was like, man, go to Sumner. You know what I'm saying? You're in. You don't need to come back here for 8th grade. Go to Sumner for sure. Little that was encouragement, and little that was like, man, you gave me enough trouble. Get out of here, right? But still, you know. So those two things pushed me to Sumner. But then, like I said in my story, junior year, I left Sumner at the end of junior year, going into my senior year, and went to Harmon. And that was when my moms and my steppops gave me the choices, like, what do you want to do? I felt like I was already equipped enough at Sumner because I got the habits necessary to really be successful on top of the drive that I already had, so they equipped me. But I wanted to enjoy my senior year. right? I didn't want to have to deal with all the, the college prep and stuff that you had to do with something. I was like, man, this is my senior year. You get this one time. I want to enjoy it, and I want to go to a quote unquote normal school. And so I made the decision to leave summer my senior year. And for me, I think, and I wouldn't say this for everybody, but it was a great decision for me, right? I got to get back into kind of the element that I liked at that time, right? Being young, of course, we liked the wrong elements, but I really got to enjoy my senior year. And then I think that was kind of a second phase of me being able to show other people, like, you can still be accepted for who you are and still want to do well and want to do great and be successful. So I think it also allowed me to link up with a lot of other cats from the inner city and show them, like, nah, man, don't hide your genius, bro. Be that. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to hide your genius. So it was a great decision for me. Okay. Sure.
So I got to emphasize a couple things that I'm hearing you say, but I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Right.
All right. So the decision to leave the college preparatory school was not because you couldn't make the grades.
No, I had a great GPA.
Right. Okay. So it didn't have to do with that. You weren't put out. It wasn't, oh, I can't, I'm struggling to make the grades and keep it up. Correct.
Nothing to do with any of that. It was purely me wanting to enjoy my senior year. And
when you say enjoy, because I want to make sure our youth can go enjoy your senior year, did that mean that you wanted to do something that was, quote unquote, bad?
No, nothing like that. I wanted to get out of school at a decent time, right? Summer keep you in school till about 4 o'clock. I wanted to get out like the rest of the kids and and ride around.
Workload is what you're talking about. The homework load, because it is a college prep, and they do give you a workload like you were already in college.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. And I just was at the point I was like, I'm gonna be doing this for the next 4 years when I go to college. Just give me 1 year. I guess today it's a gap year, right? Yeah. Give me a gap year. Okay. Right. So that was my decision. It had nothing to do with anything other than that. Okay.
And the decision was a decision that you discussed and made with your parents.
Yeah, with my parents. Yeah, they asked me.
And you were honest with them, and all. I'm doing all this because I want them to understand and see their honesty and conversations with parents.
Yeah.
It leads to sometimes you will be able to do what you want. Yeah. And be able to thrive in the situation. But those conversations have to come.
Absolutely.
And it's not trying to get out of something because you could do it. It is, hey, I'm still going to college.
Yeah, absolutely.
It wasn't a plan like, hey, I don't want to go to college, I'm not doing so, I want to do something. It's, I'm still going to go, but I like this gap year to kind of relax on the workload, not relax on your GPA or relax on doing your schoolwork. Yeah. It was just kind of relax on the load because I'm going to have this load again.
Yeah, and I'll add to that, right? Mm-hmm. I end up going there, right, to relax on my workload, and then I get over there and they're like, well, you're so far ahead because you went to Sumner, you can actually dual enroll in college while you're here. So it actually turned out being better for me because I came out of high school with a semester worth of college taken care of already. So it even put me even further ahead than I would have been at Sumner. And then, those transferred over to my bachelor program. So I thought I was going to lessen my workload, and I ended up, doing a workload that was more valuable to me, right? And about the conversations and asking the parents, they knew that I had my own internal motor, so they were okay with me making that decision. And funny enough, when I made the decision, and I won't put a name out there, but they'll probably remember if they ever watch this, I had a teacher at Sumner tell me, this is the worst mistake that you're making in your life. Like, what are you going to do if you don't graduate from Sumner? And for me, I just laugh like, dog, I got a drive in me that's like no other. Sumner didn't make or break me, you know what I'm saying, of who I was going to be. If I was going to be who I am today, I was going to be that regardless of where I went to school. So that was another driving force for me too after that conversation. I was like, okay, cool. Let me even ratchet it up even more, right? That was more fuel for me to even succeed even more in life. So now every time you see me, you got to be like, I said the wrong thing to this kid, right? You probably need to apologize to me at some point.
I put a little extra fuel on the fire.
Yeah. So.
Okay, good. I like that. I know we spent a little time on that, but I just wanted to,
Yeah.
to talk through it so that our community, our students, our families can understand, communication, understand the choices they made, why it wasn't trying to get out of work, it was trying to, lessen the workload, but still had the mindset of I'm still going to put in the work to do good in school.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I still have the drive to push myself and to go on to college and go.
Absolutely.
Because I believe that, drive, push, work ethic are one of the most important things on the road to success.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Got to have those things, got to move. You always have. Ever since I met you, just like I said, you were kind of already had your own kind of built up of what you're going to do. It was okay with you to speak up, stand out, say no. And I like that. That's a good thing. And I hope our listeners understand that and see that could be at an early age. You don't have to wait till you're an adult.
Yeah.
You don't have to wait till you have a certain amount of money or certain things or possessions. You can do that at any point, and that's okay. So let's move a little past school, high school, and let's talk a little bit about college. So where did you attend college?
I went to Pittsburgh State University.
Pittsburgh State.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you, was that your first choice?
Actually, no. My grandfather wanted me to actually go to Southern University down in Louisiana. So, we spent all of our summers pretty much down in Shreveport, Logansport, all through the Louisiana, and that's where he went. So he wanted me to go to Southern University. So I was leaning towards that at one point, and then, got a letter in the mail from Pittsburgh State University about, scholarships, and then my coach from high school at Harmon reached out to us, was like, hey man, I know the people down there, I could set you up a walk-on opportunity, to play ball down there too. I was like, all right, cool. Then I had a cousin that was down there that, I'd always kind of admired and looked up to, and I was like, oh, this would be cool, because we didn't really grow up together, but always, like I said, looked up to him. I was like, cool, I can go to school with my cousin and everything. So yeah, I'm just going to Pittsburgh State. And so that was really my decision to go to Pittsburgh State. Then I get down there and my cousin wasn't there anymore. So that was kind of like, man, what I'm here for then, right? He had ended up going down to Dillard down in Louisiana. So I should have went to Southern and yeah. Okay. But it was a good decision. It was a culture shock at first, but it was a good decision in the long run.
So did you play sports while you were there?
Man, I did the walk-on, and I had a situation in Pittsburgh State where I got injured and ended up in a sling for 3 months without really any hand movement. And then by that time, college life sat in, gained weight, and I just didn't get back into it. But what did happen in Pittsburgh State, it's not a sport, but I got back into martial arts. So I ended up being a martial artist in Pittsburgh State. I used to compete in the tri-state, four-state, Kansas, Missouri, and three-state, Kansas, Missouri, and Arkansas. Yeah, so I used to do martial arts tournaments back in college.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what sport before that were you?
Basketball.
Basketball.
Yeah,
okay, we just got to get that out. Because I had to make sure that we got to that.
Yeah.
Because the one thing that you said earlier is I wasn't very good at basketball, all those things when you started.
Yeah.
But I met you through basketball.
Yeah.
I met you through basketball, and you played very well.
I was a workhorse.
Correct.
Right? So I could have got my robbing on, right? I was a rebounder and
That's
all that.
That's a skill in itself.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. And doing that does not make you not able to play a sport.
Absolutely.
And that's what I want. There are different skills and roles that need to be played, and if you don't have those roles filled on a team, then the team can't be successful.
Yeah.
So I had to make sure I brought back to the sport that you actually ended up playing in high school, and then what your coach is saying, hey, I can get you a walk-on to play, and it was basketball, the one that in middle school you didn't think, you said I'm not very good, and everybody was going. So that to be said is that sometimes if we continue with something, we get better.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Sometimes what we perceive, because sometimes this world makes you think that only the person who shoots the ball or who scores so many points is the only one that's good. And that's not true, because he can't get the ball if the rest of them don't play defense, box out, rebound,
that's real.
All those other things, and he can't score every basket by himself.
Yeah, I was I didn't kid myself about what I was good at, and that's what I focused on, right? I learned how to play within the system in sports and within the system in life. And that's a key thing that people need to understand too, is that understand how the system works and find your role in it. And that's what I did.
Okay. Now, I'm going to come back to that.
All right.
I got to make a choice because this leads into a question that
Okay.
I have to ask you later. System of life, we're going to get into that.
All right.
Okay. So now let's talk about in college, and you're there now, cousin's gone, but you're there. You were saying that it was a culture shock. Explain.
I came from Wyandotte County, and I go down to southeast Kansas, and it's different. It's definitely a different area. As soon as you walk into town, drive into town, going through Fort Scott, it's like, man, is it even people down here? Is it people down here that look like me, right? And that was the biggest thing. It was like, is there going to be people down here that look like me? But I get down there, and man, it was a healthy Wyandotte County presence. So that was good, and we all really embraced each other. So it turned out to be a great experience, but it took a little bit adjusting.
I remember two things. I first moved to New York. I went to New York, and the first person I met, they asked me two questions. Yo, where you from?
Yep.
I tell them I'm from Kansas, because I'm from Kansas. I don't say Kansas City.
Yeah.
Because they always think Missouri. So I said, yo, I'm from Kansas. And they said, yo, there's black people down there? That's the first thing. It's like, I'm like, yeah, where I'm from, it's not black. You mean like Dorothy?
Yeah.
Like from the Wizard of Oz. I'm like, man. So going to places, it can be a culture. People don't realize that it can be. I went to Independence Community College.
Oh yeah, I bet you had a culture shock
So
too.
it was a shock. But what you did say was also supported me that it was a healthy presence of Wyandotte County students down there.
Yeah.
So even though I didn't per se go to school with each one of them, but we bonded from being from Wyandotte County, Washington, Schlago. Only time I ever really talked to Schlago. I'm a bulldog, so I really don't know. I'm just talking.
Yeah.
But we did bond, and that is good. And so I'm saying that again. I'm always thinking of our listeners going, is the fact that nervousness of going somewhere that is a culture shock or that's not exactly like home shouldn't deter you from going and reaching out.
It helps you grow.
It does.
It helps you grow.
That was, I'm being honest, best times of my life. I was able to learn a lot, and I'm sure you were too.
Yeah.
Just talk to about maybe things that it helps you know about yourself. And I just mean college in general.
College in general. Well, college in general helped reaffirm some of the things, some of the beliefs that I had in myself. Like I was ready for this, right? I did well in college, right? So that was never a challenge with me. I did well until I slacked off with the partying and all that type of stuff. But the workload was never a problem for me in college. So, like I said, it just kind of reaffirmed what I already believed about myself and who I was. But another thing is that, and I don't want this to sound wrong, but going to a Pittsburgh State versus a Southern or something like that, I think it gave me a better look, like a crystal ball almost, into what the world around me was going to look like if I was going to be going into corporate America. And that was going to be not many people that look like me when I'm in certain rooms, right? When I was in certain classes, it was like that, right? When I was in certain programs, it was like that. So I think it helped prepare me for what I would be facing with to make me more comfortable with that. So when I got into corporate America and saw that, it wasn't as big of a shock to me as it probably was to other people. And I learned how to maneuver in that, and it prepared me for how to maneuver in corporate America. And it goes back to understanding the system that you're a part of, the role that you play in that system, and just being the best at it.
Okay, I like that. Prepared you for that. Give me two things. I like to ask this always about college. Give me two things. One, give me your best memory of college. We're going to start with the best memory. Your best memory about college.
Man, my best memory about college was probably, probably my best, funniest, and scariest moment about college was my first bonfire. For people who don't know what that is, right? There was this guy named Tractor, real country dude. If you've seen Friday Night Lights or Varsity Blues, the big guy who's now is ripped up, guy named Tractor remind me just of him. Super country. Was like, man, we gonna go to this bonfire, come hang out with us. I'm thinking like, I don't know about that. It's my freshman year. I'm just now meeting y'all. It's just gonna be, me and my roommate, the only two black people going out here, and we decide to go ahead and go, and we drive, and I'm like, man, I don't see nothing but dirt roads and trees and nothing else around me. So I'm starting getting a little nervous, but get out there, and it was a great time, man. It was bonfires, keg stands, and stuff, all stuff that I had never done before, right? And I probably would have never had a chance to experience if I didn't go to this school. So that was probably one of my best experiences, because it was one of my first experiences that was different from anything that I've ever done. My second best experience was when I was down there. The Kings of Comedy had first came out, right? And so all the minority students from the Black Student Union got together and went to see Kings of Comedy, and it was just like, even though we were somewhere that wasn't a place of our own at that moment, it felt like it was, right? Like, it felt like we was just back in the city, right? A whole bunch of cats from Wyandotte, Oklahoma, Texas, wherever it was, just having a good time, and it just kind of felt like our element.
Okay. Now give me you kind of said scary, but give me the worst.
The worst experience?
Memory.
People might, I don't know if they do this still, but one of the producers here may remember this. People might not understand, but at the time that I went to Pittsburgh State, on Martin Luther King birthday in Joplin, which is 30 miles away, that's where the mall was. So you go to Joplin to shop. What I was not aware of is that on King Day in Joplin, the Klan marched. So my first experience going, look it up. My first experience going to Joplin was on King Day, because it was an extended weekend, and it was a Klan rally, and they was out there passing out flyers in they garb and everything. And so for me, I was like, I may have made a mistake. You know what I'm saying, coming down to this area of the state at all. So that was probably the craziest thing that I experienced down there was seeing that.
Okay. Yeah, I would say I'd have to put a top on that. Okay. Now tell me, how did you deal with that?
Turned around. Turned around and went back to Pittsburgh. I didn't keep going. Okay. That's how I dealt with that. This ain't for me now. Yeah.
I'm asking that, and I'm asking, like I said, I'm always asking that, because there's nothing wrong with your manhood or who you are, because you see a situation that doesn't look right, or there's not going to be positive for you, and it's okay to turn around and go another way. Hey, you know what? This ain't the place I need to be. Yeah. Or I know better. Or that's okay. Yeah. Those choices are okay to make.
And it could have been harmless, right? Just because, it's free, whatever, it's free speech. They could do whatever they want. And I don't think, it probably wouldn't even attack me or anything. However, I wasn't going to stand around and see if that would have been the outcome. So, I turned around and went back to Pittsburgh.
Good choice. I'm sure everybody's happy you made that.
Definitely turned around.
All right. Now, let's talk finishing college. You're getting out of college. What's the career choice, or what was the job you got out? Was it in your career field? What was it?
Yes,
matter of fact, I didn't even ask you that.
Yeah.
What did you go to college for? What was your major?
Initially, I went for computer science.
Okay.
So tinkering, computer science, programming, and all that. And I was in my freshman year, and I had this assignment. It was this programming assignment, and it made me give up on programming. I was like, you know what? If this is what I'm gonna be doing for the rest of my life, I'm not gonna be happy with this, right? And I just made a decision like, this is not what I want to do. So I went over to business. It was what I was good at, right? The hustling, just having that hustler's motor.
Hustling is a good word. Yeah, hustling doesn't just mean.
I just want to clear that up.
Gotcha.
The hustling motor, and the business acumen I had at a very young age. I was always doing something to side hustle this, side hustle that, to get my own money as a kid, and so business was a good fit for me. So I went to school. My major was business and mathematics with a minor in economics. And so when I came out, I was duped into working at this company to be in a management training program is what they called it, right? I mean, I'm like, okay, management training program. I get there, first couple months I'm working in the warehouse, right? Next couple months they moved me to the phones and everything, but it was never really a management training program. It was just, you green, you fresh out of college, we're gonna pay you less than you probably should get paid, but hey, we're gonna give you a job. And back then, you may remember this too, is that what we used to run into is that jobs were like, well, you got to have at least 1 year of experience before you can get the job. And so you almost have to take any kind of job because it's like, how am I going to get the 1 year experience if you're not going to give me a job?
Right.
And so I ended up, honestly, when I came out of college, I felt like I got hustled. Like, man, I went to college for this. And I come out making this, right, and working in the warehouse. Like, man, what I go to college for? I can do this without a degree. But again, it was just the roads that you had to go down. It taught me humility for sure, because I thought I was sold the dream like everybody else. I'm gonna come out of college, I'm gonna have a good job, I'm gonna be doing okay. Man, I came out of college barely getting by, right? Still having to have side hustles and stuff to pay my rent, because I was, I never went back to living home or anything, so I had to have, side hustles and stuff to pay my bills and pay my rent. So I kind of felt real hustle, but like I said, it taught me a lesson in humility. And it also taught me, like, all right, this is your situation. If you really got that grind and that dog in you, show it. And that's what I had to do. But it taught me a lot of skills, because I had to, like I said, earn wages outside of that. And I think that was the first lead in to me really becoming a renaissance man of, figuring life out.
Okay.
Yeah, but I did end up in my field, not as happy as I would have been, but I did end up in my field. But it got me where I need to be today.
Okay. So now let's get, so I got to go back and just ask two more questions about the college. Did you pledge?
No.
Okay. All right. In college, when you made the change, I'm always thinking, like I said to the listeners and stuff, you went to school thinking one thing.
Yeah.
And then you end up changing, which is okay, and they have to understand that sometimes within that path, your path changes. And I heard what you said.
Yeah.
You said you chose a field that you felt more comfortable in, that you were good at, and that you had already kind of been doing, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And I'm reiterating that to say that one of the things, even the reason of this show, is not to get youth to say, oh, telling them you need to be this, or you need to be this. What it is showing them that, hey, figure out what your strengths are.
Right.
Figure out what your likes are.
Right.
And it may change. You may think that this is what you like and what you're good at, but once you kind of get into the hustle and bustle of life and moving and school, hey, it may change. And you know what? Now I really see this is what I'm going to be happy with. Like you said, if this is what I'm doing, I don't think I'm going to be happy.
Yeah.
You may not even have understood that or knew that that's what that entailed. You just knew that may have been something you liked. I know it happened to me. Now, once I got into studying and moved, no, I don't want to do this. Yeah. I know I'm not going to be happy at doing it. I got to get something different because I didn't know what all that entailed. Right. Now I know what it's entailed. I'm sitting here, okay, now let me choose something different, move, and it's okay. It's definitely okay. Change is okay, but to pick something that you like, good at, and that you see that you already have some skills in, how did that help you today now and what you're doing today?
For one, I'm happy in what I do, right? So I feel like I made the right decision by going that path. And then what it did was it helped me translate what was raw into polishing that up and learning the aspect of the business side of things to really get me in the doors that I need to be in. So that's how it got me and impacted me today, right? Like I said, it took that. It's almost like someone going through training, right? You're like, man, this is a raw talent. This guy can go, but he needs some skills to be touched up on, right? And so that's what it helped for me, right? It helped me turn that raw into more polished talent.
Okay. So you work for a computer company. Well, that's not what you call it.
Yeah, it's a tech company.
Tech company. That's what you said. Yeah, you work for a tech company. All right. Now you real humble. So I want you to talk to them and talk a little bit. All right. Because I want them to see.
Yeah.
So you never did say what company it is that you work for.
Yeah. Right now I work for Amazon Web Services.
Okay.
Number one cloud company in the world.
Okay.
Right.
There we go. So you come, you work in the warehouse, now that's your job. you eventually to this day, those things molded you and got you to kind of where you are now.
Yeah.
Now, how did you get to this job?
Yeah, let's go back. You're right. Let me put my chest out a little bit because because like
Let's talk.
I want people from here, kids that grew up like me, to know what's possible, right? And it doesn't have to just be sports, right? You can use your mind to get to certain places. So for me, like I said, I got all the skills that I needed from the couple of jobs that I was in before getting to where I am today, and then I always bet on myself, right? Before getting into the tech space, I worked in higher education as an admissions advisor for a for-profit college. Again, wasn't really happy in it, but I was in sales. I was making good money. I was in management. I was going the path that most people would be content with, but I wasn't really happy with it, right? So I made a decision to bet on myself, and I jumped off the ledge and went into an entirely new field. Took a pay cut, took maybe 5-10 steps backwards because I wanted to be into tech sales. Remember, I started out in computer information systems, so I always had a love for technology. Mm-hmm. Being in tech sales allowed me to mesh the two perfectly. And so I started out in the startup world. I was at this software company that sold solutions to education, charter schools and school districts. So that's where I got my start, and that's where I learned how to sell software and how to do different things. And when I got into that role, and I said, I'm gonna be here 3 years tops, and after that I want to work for the big dogs. And for me, that was Microsoft, Google, Amazon. I'm gonna work for one of the top three, and I'm gonna give myself 3 years. So I got in there and learned everything that I need to know to get myself to the next level. And right at 2 years, 8 months, I got recruited and left that job and went to work for Microsoft. So I landed at one of the top three. Cool, I'm at the top three. So I was at Microsoft for almost 5 years. And I had a few conversations with AWS. First couple of times I was like, nope, I'm cool. I'm gonna stay where I am. I'm happy where I'm at. I can ride this out, right, and be good for the rest of my days until I retire. But then I made the decision, I had a few conversations with friends, conversations with my wife, and I was like, by me going to another company that's in high tech, I do two things. I proved to myself that this first opportunity wasn't a fluke, right? Like, no, I'm where I'm supposed to be because I'm this caliber. And secondly, I want to be, for me, I was like, how many times do you see somebody that comes from the inner city, especially like, a Wyandotte County, that has worked for not one, but two of the top three companies in the world? So I also did that because it became bigger to me. I wanted to be able to be that beacon to show them, like, man, you can reach the highest of heights that you want to, not once, but twice. And who knows, maybe a third time. No, I'm just playing. I love my job. I'm happy where I am. But yeah, some of it was to be that person too, to show that, man, this is what you can do with the brain power, and by making those decisions that are the right decisions for you, right, and the right decisions for your future. And that all starts early on. I didn't necessarily have to know where I wanted to be in life when I was a kid, but I knew that I wanted to be somewhere and be doing something that I deemed as successful and great. So I at least had that. Then I just had to figure out the middle pieces out later in life, right? Yeah. But when I got into tech sales, I knew I wanted to be there, and I knew from getting in there, I wanted to be at the top level at some point in my life. And then I started putting those goals in front of myself, hitting those goals, and another goal, hit those goals. So you also got to focus on that. Set some goals out in front of yourself so you can have something to go towards. Because if you're just saying, I want to be successful without knowing what that means, you're never going to get there because you're just going to be running in circles, right? You're just shooting in the dark. Now, when you got a goal out there and you define what that success means to you, because my success, I didn't care about what society said. It wasn't that I want to go to this place to make all the money in the world, although I do well. It was, I want to be at this place because for me in this field, that was greatness. And I just think you got to focus on what does that goal of greatness look like for you.
Gotcha. So while he's here, this is Andre from Taste of Flavor.
All right.
This is where the food comes from.
I appreciate you. This is good. This is good.
Okay, I have to let me tell you, we always ask, What do you think about the food?
No, the food was good. The food was real good. And like I said, I appreciate you going the extra mile and switching it up for me by not having a meat eater over here. But yeah, it was real good.
Appreciate you, brother. Yes, sir. All right. Can I get a to-go plate? Let's throw that out there, Chris. So we're gonna wrap it up, but I gotta go because, like I said, I gotta say, my goal to have you here was kind of like.
Yeah, we didn't get to talk about nothing about investing.
We coming. It's coming. That's why I said we got to talk that talk.
That's what I'm saying. He said wrap it up. I was like,
no, I said we about to wrap it up
right
with
on.
this. So my goal for having you here, because one of the things that you do with us, with the Jegna Klub, besides support us, you've been supporting us since we started with our Boys and Men Club, Sisterhood, our evening socials, always. But one of the other things that you do and support us is you help with financial tips, even on the podcast. When people see the podcast, they'll be seeing you and they'll be seeing the financial tip that you give us.
Yeah.
And so that's something you do. So I kind of want to go. That's why I said I want you to start talking that talk a little bit. And I got to ask you this before we even go there at the top. So I seen one time about a deal you closed.
Oh yeah.
So I want you to talk a little bit about that, man, because I really want our listeners, our kids to understand when you say I'm selling software, and I'm saying like what you really playing with. What kind you talking about companies? So sometimes we think software, they thinking you're selling software to me when I come into the store.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So I want them to understand what you really, the accounts you're dealing with and what kind of things you're talking about, what you're doing. So just talk a little bit. You ain't got to be modest all the time.
No, this is when I was back at Microsoft. Let's back up before then. When I was at the tech startup, now my old boss would give me my credit, but I left as the deal was closing on this deal. But when I was at the tech startup, I actually closed the largest deal that they had in the history of the company, and that was to Omaha Public Schools, and it was a deal in 6-figure range, right? So for that was a huge deal, right? Going into Microsoft, I was working with the customer, and the only reason I'll omit names is because a lot of these customers, they have to be referenceable customers. You can't just be throwing names out there and stuff. So the only reason I'll omit name on this one is that for that reason. But I was working with this customer that we were always trying to get over the hump of $1 million, right? We would sell things here and there, and they just would never go over the $1 million. And I worked on this deal probably for like 2 years to build a rapport with this customer, really understand their needs, and kind of bring value add to what they were trying to accomplish in their business. And last year over at Microsoft, we finally got them over the $1 million mark in a single purchase. So that was a huge accomplishment for myself, my team in the district that I was working for at that time. So yeah, the companies that I work for, we do pretty sizable deals. They're large companies. Right now, my patch of companies, they're companies that at least do $250 million annually. As far as my patch, I do mid markets. Some of them are close to $1 billion companies. I have one that we're trying to, their desire for themselves in revenue is to be $1 billion company. Right now, they're a little over $500 million, and so we're working on how do we bring transformational ideas for them that they can have new solutions and services to their end customers to grow that customer base to finally get them to be $1 billion company, so they can get to the top of where they are. Right, right now they're probably about 14th, 15th in their industry, and they of course want to compete with the big dogs, and that starts with being $1 billion company. So we're working through that right now on what can we help them bring to market. What are some of the gaps in what they offer, and what services can we work backwards with them on by understanding what their end customers are looking for to really build something around that's going to be the next service to them to help them expand, or the gap of, okay, for them to go after larger companies, what are they missing? What do they need to bring to the table? So that'll be my next.
That's what I'm saying, man. You didn't want to tell them that, man. Kids need to hear you. Your accounts, 2 commas and above.
Yeah,
the accounts that you're doing and going. You set the mark for yourself. You got into a business. You set the mark. Before you left, you made a mark.
Yeah.
Even a 6-figure mark is a great mark. But then you went and then you raised the bar more, and you went. So it's great, man. Great. I mean, it's a great thing, and I like the fact that you were willing to kind of divulge some of that so our students can see that, hey,
Yeah.
man, I can do that. He was sitting, where him sitting there is me sitting here now, and I can be that person.
You could definitely be that person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's attainable, but I also love the fact that you said you did it with your brain.
Yeah.
Did it with brain power, and that's sometimes that's cooler than the other powers.
Yeah.
You know? And it's okay to be that.
Smart is definitely gangster.
Yeah, it is. I'll never forget. And I hope he ever listens to this. I hope he does. I had a friend in high school, Adrian Beard, told me one time, man, C's ain't cool. I'm like, he's like, man, C's ain't cool, man. We get A's. We not average, bro. Different mindset.
Yeah.
He knew I was kind of playing around, just getting by, not even really, trying to really do my best, just
Right.
trying to get by. And for him to say that from another student, of mine, so I didn't think he was gonna make that.
Yeah, he heard you, yeah.
I appreciate. I gotta say again, thank you, Andre.
Yeah.
But it just for him saying that at an age we're in high school, for him to hit a lot harder. My dad or something might have said it to me, it may not have hit as hard.
Yeah.
But for him saying that to me, and it made me start reaching for my best every time. You're right, we're not average.
Yeah.
And it's okay to be smart. It's okay to do my best every time, academically. It's okay.
Yeah, I think as a tribe, we just got to do better at encouraging that, right? Because we grew up, and for some reason, we felt like we had to dim our light, hide our smarts, so we can fit in, right? In a lot of cases, not speaking for myself, but in a lot of cases, we feel like we have to hide that or something, or we're not going to be in the cool club. And I think as a tribe, we just got to do better at encouraging, like, man, don't worry about that. You can still be cool. There's plenty of cool people that are very smart. And when you look at the people that are running these companies that are doing the best, in a lot of cases, those are the smart people. So why would you not want to emulate that instead of the person that's I try to be very conscious of how I word things, right? But instead of the person that you see that grew up in the neighborhood that everybody thought was cool because at some point maybe he had the coolest car or whatever, a little bit of money, but that's still in the neighborhood and hasn't really progressed. You don't want to look up to that because that's what you're going to start emulating, and you're going to be that guy 40 years old, 50 years old, sitting on your front porch talking about the old days instead of somebody that's constantly evolving and moving forward. So I think it's also good to understand, man, you got to find who you want to emulate. You're right, and we need to encourage people to emulate people that are successful. And if you don't understand how they got there, start asking questions about it or do research on it. How did this person get successful, right? When I see somebody that's doing well, I'm always like, man, what do they do? But again, we're always taught, man, don't be pocket watching. Don't be worrying about nobody else's business. Man, how am I going to know how to go down the same path if I don't know how they got there? I want to understand how they got there. It's like Will Smith in Pursuit of Happiness. Yeah. What do you do and how did you do it? Those are the questions that I ask, right? Like, how did you get here? I want to know that.
Yeah.
And I think we need to encourage a lot more of that. It's not about pocket watching. It's like, man, I'm curious because I want to be successful, right? And I don't think we do enough of that.
Man, I'm glad you said that because that is what this platform is for. The platform is to put people out there that they can see and try to emulate.
Yeah.
And it's not about pocket watching. It's about, hey, this person came from this area, just like you, had a lot of similar experiences that you had, and this is what they're doing. This is their success. Now, look at what they've done. Talk to them. Emulate what they've done for what your strengths are.
Yeah.
And what you like, what you want, and then help that push you to where you want to be.
Yep. And be okay with knowing that you have weaknesses and fill those gaps. If you want to be somewhere and you're not prepared to be there, fill those gaps. Like I said with me, I knew I couldn't go. Well, I'm not going to say I couldn't go. At that time, I didn't know if I could go from where I was and jump straight to where I am today. Mm-hmm. For me, I thought about it like, okay, here's a few gaps. I look at job descriptions and I knew what the gaps were that I had in my skill set, so I went out and got those, even though it required me to step back a little bit, from what I was making and where I was and everything. I was okay with that. I was okay with taking that step back.
It's okay to go to junior college and then go to the university.
100%, especially now, right? If you can save the money, do it. Why wouldn't you? Yeah.
Right.
I encourage that wholeheartedly. Just because I'm in the same rooms as Princeton's and Harvard's, and I didn't go to a Princeton and Harvard. And I'm in the same rooms. I'm in the same roles. I'm at the same companies. Right. I'm talking to people like, oh, you went to Princeton?
Yeah.
Wow, that's about $100,000 in school debt. Right. And we in the same place.
Right.
No, it's really about what you got inside of you. You can JUCO, whatever it is, man, or not college. There's plenty of people that are successful that did not go to college. Not saying that I'm encouraging kids not to go to college, but I do believe that college is the old mindset. If I could be as successful as I am today without going to college, I wouldn't have went to college. If I did, it would have been later in life just to say, hey, I got my degree. But I don't think college is always necessary for success. You got some very bright minds out there that can figure it out and be extremely successful and bypass all that. And for those people that are very bright and already have it figured out, sometimes college is a hindrance and slows them down. It's almost like the kid that's NBA ready, but they got to go to college for a year or sit out a year. Why slow that person down? Right?
Okay.
Yeah. Now, for the majority, maybe you go to college, but college isn't the only way. There's plenty of skills out here that are needed to keep the world going. And there's plenty of other skills out here that you don't get from college that you can do very, very, very well in. Right? Like Little Man was talking about mechanics. I was just saying, I'm in the wrong field because all I ever see somebody posting on Facebook is about, I need a mobile mechanic, and there's no responses. Like, if you're a mobile mechanic, you're going to be doing great out here because people are always looking for it. So getting educated doesn't mean you have to go to college. You can get educated in other skills without going to college.
Got your skills, trades,
all that.
Things. It's about the skill that you're good at and taking advantage.
That you're good at, that you're going to be happy with, that you're going to be comfortable with. I got a cousin that's a carpenter, and he loves it, and he's great at it, and he does well.
Yeah.
It's all about what you're going to be happy with. Just because you go to college, it doesn't mean you're going to be happy. There's plenty of people that we look at them and say they have the world that are out here jumping off of buildings. Right? And or just constantly unhappy. You're right? You got to focus on what works for you. My biggest thing for me, I never let society dictate to me what success is. Because success is really what you view it as. Right? Because to a billionaire, I'm not successful. Everybody's going to be unsuccessful to somebody at some level because there are levels to this. So you just got to make what works for you work for you.
I like it. And I guess I should have chose another one. That's great. We got on the. But I was saying that you said you chose a smaller company. So I was trying to should have said playing for the junior varsity.
There we go.
To get to the varsity it is okay. And sometimes understanding taking steps. So sometimes people think, well, I come out, I got to jump to up here, and then you may not be ready. You may not, but you may not be ready, and then you may not have the success that you got because sometimes the tools that you need, you get them by working your way up, going up there. So you may have to start here. Don't mean that I couldn't have went there and eventually, but I can go here. I can learn everything that I need to learn and I'm gonna just say it this way: JV is slower game than the varsity. Freshman is a slower game than JV.
Absolutely.
So there's nothing wrong with playing on the freshman team or going to a smaller company and learning and getting the speed of the game and coming up and moving. And guess what? I came from here, and midway through the season, I got moved up. I get up, then I got here. I played on this, man. Now I'm at the varsity level because I got there rather than going to up here shooting for it. And you may have, other people can do that too. But then you get there, first sign of not having success or not living up to, because up there the game's faster and they expect more.
It'd be detrimental to your ego.
It could be.
Some people never recover from that.
It could be.
Yeah.
So I had to bring, like I said, so I had to bring it out that the steps you took is okay, and that they can take steps. Sometimes that's the best thing in the progression of your life or a person's life, and what helps you become solid and successful. Because success is not just, it is getting there at point, but the other part of success is being happy and staying there.
Yeah, you also got to enjoy your journey.
Main time.
You got to enjoy the process that you're going through. And it goes back to when you define success for yourself, it's easier for you to tune out the white noise. Right? Yeah. When society defines success for you, you're going to always feel like you're behind. You're like, man, I ain't there yet. right? But it goes back to Nipsey Hussle. He could have rushed all his albums, but he was like, man, I'm not in a rush. I'm gonna take 5 years to perfect it because it's a marathon, right? And also, what I always tell people, sometimes when you get somewhere too fast, it's such a blur, you don't know how you got there. So if you ever fall off, you don't know how to get back there. For me, in my process, when I did fall off, because I did fall off, I got let go from a job before, and I had my moment at first, like, oh man, what am I gonna do now? But that only lasted about 20 minutes, and then I was like, man, I'm a hustler. This is what I do. I'm gonna bounce back, right? So it wasn't detrimental to me, because I knew how I got there, so I knew how to get there again, and I'll know how to get there again if it ever happens again. And that all came from the process, and being okay with the process and tuning out the white noise.
Now, I'm getting this my neck is there because I'm getting this grill like you. Let's move faster and get on, because I could talk to you for hours.
Let's go.
All right. So now let's get to the next.
I'll make my questions shorter. My answers shorter.
No, I got to get more specific. I like talking to you.
Yeah.
I always have. You know what I'm saying? We sit down, we have a good conversation, and plus, that's why I love to bring you here, because I know that our students out here can relate to you.
Yeah.
They can see you and relate to you when you've been to our events. The kids gravitate to you. And then you have a story that you can talk to them, and then you're genuine with them. So I know it. So yeah. I'm enjoying this. I led to it before talking about it. One thing you do for us is in the finance world. How'd you get into finance?
Man, just being the creator of my own destiny, in a sense. Of course, as a creator, that's my destiny, but for my own destiny. I don't know, man. I was just always good with math, and I was always good with numbers and money. And so it never made sense for me to pay someone else to manage my portfolio, because I can figure it out myself. I don't need to give you a chunk of something for small returns, right? Most times when you talk to a portfolio manager, they think like, oh man, we get you 8% returns, and think that's great. That's not great for me, right? We inner city kids. If we gonna flip something, we want to double up at least. And that was always my mentality. So I was like, no, I'm gonna figure out how to double my money. I'm not gonna give you 4% of my 8% just to get me there. No, I'm not gonna do that. And I think another thing for me is, it's gonna be a divulging a little information, but I had two sides of the coin in my household, right? I had a mother who was frugal, and I had a stepdad who was frivolous, right? And for me, I saw how the frivolous, what that can lead to. As soon as you got it, it's gone. And most times in our community, as soon as they got it, it's gone. You just want that short-term success and gratification. And it's like, okay, when it's gone, then what? Now you like, let me hold something, let me borrow something. I never wanted to be that person. And so I got into saving early, right? I was always a saver with all my side hustle money. I was always a saver, right? I wasn't really the kid who was like, I gotta go get the new Jordans or whatever, anything like that, because I was comfortable with myself. I never needed all that. So that was the first piece of it, is seeing the difference in frugal and the frivolous. And then, like I said, when I got older, the second piece was like, okay, when I started getting into investing, I can make better returns. I believe in myself, and betting on myself. I'm gonna bet on myself before I bet on somebody else who's not gonna do what I can do with my money. So that's really how I got into it. I just taught myself.
Okay, I like that. So going back to what I said,
right.
System of life.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm bringing that back because, I do a lot of listening and I've learned over years, I'm going to say a lot of us aren't taught finance and investment and different loan interest, a lot of that. So that's one thing that the Jegna Klub is heavy on, is teaching. I call it's financial literacy, but it's to become economic independent. That's the status, economic independence. No one wants to be having to rely on someone else for money. And so that's what we want the youth to be able to understand, and getting some of the things that we didn't get, we learned that our parents maybe didn't know, but the earlier we can get them to understand, the better off that our community and our generation can be. So have you ever heard of, the Wall Street Trapper?
Yeah.
or Ash Cash.
That's funny. I was just telling my wife that I just started following Wall Street Trapper. Okay. And I was like, I like this dude. He reminds me of me, right? So I was like, man, I really like this dude. And it almost like, man, you know, people's always asked me, are you going to ever do a platform? You going to ever do a class? And when I start listening to these other cats, I'm like, they're not really saying much different than I'm saying. It's just a different approach. And sometimes I think maybe I should. Then I'm like, maybe not, because you know I like to dwell in the shadows more than being out in the forefront. But yeah, I like the Wall Street Trapper a lot. There's a few people that I like. I like.
Well, I've said him because I listen to a lot of different people. And he's the one who I related to you the most. It's just his style, where he's coming from, and then also with how he really began. Is telling his friends and talking to the people that surround him. And moving, and I brought that backup system of life because one of the things I heard him say, and at first I was like, man, but then when I really listened and let him finish, I'm like, man, I like that. And I understand. He said that he was told that we playing a game, and he was playing the wrong game.
Yeah.
And he said that he was told that, well, that's the problem. You don't understand that it is a game and that you're not playing the right one. So that's one of the biggest reasons that I said, hey man, I need Chris to come talk to us about some of these things. And I wanted you more than someone else per se because of the story. You taught yourself and pushing you more. And then I see some of the things, I always watch you. I see the things you post and what you say, and then I go do my research and go back and look, okay, I see. I see. But it's also for that. So just divulging that, hey, this is a game that we can play. One of the other pieces he said, I love this analogy. It's like, that pond. Sometimes a lot of us, we are ponds.
Yeah.
But when that pond gets to the other side of the board, it can become anything you want it to be. So it's about getting to the other side of the board.
Yeah, absolutely.
And understanding how to play the game to get there and then become it. So I like that. So with that being said, talk to us about why you believe it is important being financially literate. Or understanding, for those who don't understand, understanding finances.
Yeah, I mean, because that's what the whole world is based on, is capitalism. And if you don't understand how that works and the different moving pieces, you're going to always be at the bottom of the barrel. And that's the way capitalism works. It's a pyramid. Capitalism is a pyramid scheme. You have to have a few people at the top and the rest being trickled down or the pyramid crumbles, right? And we have to figure out and learn the finances or we're never going to get to that second or third level of that pyramid. So it's very important to first understand what's the difference between a producer and a consumer. And a lot of us are consumers. And a consumer, you're never going to get out of the vicious cycle of consumerism until you snap it and understanding how do I make my money work for me. And I think that's the biggest thing that we were never taught is how do you make your money work for you? And you have to look at, it goes back to who do you want to emulate, right? And I start looking at different people like, how are they doing this? How are they getting here? How are they making their money? And one thing that I realized is the most millionaires, well, except for like the last year or two, but it's still dealing with finance, most millionaires are produced in the stock market. Trading the stock market. Lately, there's been a ton of millionaires that have been building, cryptocurrency, but it's still around finances and money and understanding what am I putting my money in that makes me work for myself. That makes it work for me. By not having proper financial knowledge, whatever level of life you're in right now, unfortunately, you're going to stay there because you're going to always be trying to trade more time to get more money, and you're never going to have enough time.
I like that. Yeah, time and money. I learned this a long time ago, and I never could figure it out, like what they meant by it, but then I started seeing it. Well, I should say I heard it a long time ago, couldn't figure it out. And then I started learning, as I started getting some more financial literacy, started learning more, realizing things. They said wealthy people play a different game.
Yeah.
And then they said the same thing you just said. The reason people are wealthy is because their money works for them. They don't work for their money.
Yeah.
I love that, learning that, moving it. And I love that we'll be able to teach our youth some of those things. And it takes a minute to understand it, but they'll get to it.
Yeah.
And we'll get them there. That's why I'm very excited about you being here. When people come see, our podcast, they better see your mobile minutes or not mobile minutes. Excuse me. I have a mind on something else, but they'll be able to see, the finance segment of it and get tips for the week and learn different points. I'm very even more excited about you working with our EIA. That's our Economic Independence Academy, which is our official youth financial literacy program that we kind of kicked off with a few schools in here. So I'm just very excited to get that out here and have you heard and people to know that you are part of this with us and it'll be there. I think another thing I got to ask you, and we're going to get into this later though.
Right.
But I'm also excited to know and for people to start learning about, you talking about the cryptocurrency and those things, because I think that's something that the world's moving to.
Yeah.
And where it's going. So I'm excited about that. But now I got to ask you, tell me red pill.
Red pill. Red pill was just something I came up with, man. It was based off of The Matrix, right? When Neo met Morpheus and he sat down, followed the white rabbit or whatever. Morpheus opened his hand and gave him two choices. It was like the blue pill, you can take this and remain asleep and go on about your day as it is, go on about your life as it is, or you can take the red pill and really see the Matrix for what it is. And so for me, Red Pill was a brand that I wanted to move forward with because for me, I feel like that's kind of my calling, is to share the game that I have and the knowledge that I learned to wake people up from the financial matrix or the matrix of the world, period, and let them know within the real matrix, this is how everything works. And we were never taught that because too many of us are still choosing the blue pill because we don't want to do the work to really understand the matrix. So that's where I came up with Red Pill. It's like Morpheus said, all I'm offering you is the truth, nothing more, nothing less. It's up to you to take it.
I can't wait for them to see these red pills. Get this awakening content. When you sent me that, I said, man, I gotta ask you what you is that? When you told me, I said, oh man, I love it. I can dig that. I get that. Because that is really what we are about. What this whole thing is about is just awakening. A different mindset, getting a different mindset, awakening them to understand that it's not hard. It does take consistency and it takes some work, but it's not hard. A lot of times I think in our culture, we look at work as hard. But work is not hard. You're going to work at something, or you won't have that. But if you're going to have something, you're going to work at something. And it's not hard. It's just the mindset that we have. So we have to be able to get the right mindset, understand it, and it gets easier once we start working and start having a certain mindset, and then we're starting to do things that we love. I heard, I was fortunate to be in a few conversations with some people who, they have a few commas. And one of the things that I heard, and I had to go home, because I was out of my element. I'm listening. I'm a sponge. I'm soaking up everything he said. One thing that stuck with me is he said, I don't reschedule or take off. I just change my schedule. No, I take that back. He said, I don't take off. I just reschedule or change my schedule. And I'm thinking like, but when I got home, I realized, from all the other conversations, what he's saying is the fact that his money works for him enough that he's not on a certain schedule where he has to take off work. He just can reschedule things, or change the schedule of what he's doing to do what he needs to do because his money is working for him. He's not tied down to this 8, 10 hour, whatever it is, he's moving and working. And I thought that was the greatest thing. And I'm like, wow. I gotta get to that. You know what I mean? Later on, he tells me again, about the time he spent with his son, and he was just able. I had to, my son he just took off. And went and did it. And I scheduled this later, and I'm just like, okay, I get it. I really get it now. I get what they mean about the time. You know what I mean? And that's the one thing. That's the commodity that becoming economically independent gives you. It's not money is not the commodity. Money gets you the commodity of time. And that's a different mindset, different thinking. And when to hear him say that and then finally, like, eyes be awakened, like, whoa, that's where I said, okay, you know what? We got to get a platform where we can help our community, but starting with the youth, we can help them to see what economics can be, economic independence can be, and how do you get there.
Yeah.
So
Time is the most expensive thing that we have, and a lot of people call it financial freedom, but it's really life freedom, right? Because when you get to that certain level, it frees up everything else that you really, really want to be doing. Nobody really wants to work. Work is a means to an end, right? We work because society says if you don't work, you don't eat. That's the only reason people work, because as soon as people get that financial freedom, 90% of them stop working and start living. Finally really living the life that they want. Now you do have some that are workaholics, like your Diddy's and stuff, that a billion ain't gonna stop them from doing stuff, but he's still working differently. Right? You get to a point where you can do the work that you want to do, not the work that you feel like you have to do to make a living.
I like that. Well, I'm not going to ask you too much more because I'm excited for them to see your segments and come out. But I am going to ask you. I'm going to ask you this last two questions. First is, give us your financial tip for the day.
My financial tip for the day.
Give us a financial tip for the day.
My first financial tip of the day is start with a budget. That's the main thing that you have to do. A lot of times we go wrong because we overspend, right? And we overspend because we don't have a budget. So, and what I mean by that is understanding how much you have coming in versus what you have coming out. You have to always know where your money's going and how it's balancing out. Like in the old days, I used to do balancing checkbooks. We got away from that. We just kind of spend, and you look up like, oh man, I just did an overdraft on something. So I would say my first financial tip is set up a budget and know where all your money's coming from and where your money's going. And that's the first thing that you need to do, because once you do that, you may find out that you have a lot of spending that you really don't need, and you're probably in a better situation out the gate than you think you are.
Okay. Now, I end every show with this. This is every show I end with this. And I say, we went to watch the Super Bowl. We were Chiefs in the Super Bowl coming up.
All right.
We sitting there, we watching, and they come and pick your ticket. Mr. Dunlap, you've just been given a 60-second commercial. Can't sell it. 60-second commercial. It's about to air here in a few seconds. You don't have time to think, prepare, go in. What is it that you will use that 60-second commercial to let the world know that you want them to know, or leave a legacy that people will remember about this? What would your 60-second commercial go? 1, 2, 3.
My 60-second commercial, like I said, a lot of people ask me to do courses and everything, and I always feel like, nah, that ain't really what I want to do. But if I had Super Bowl airtime, I'm going to do a commercial that say, hey, red pill, financial literacy, financial tips, investment in stock market, investment in cryptocurrency, redpill.com, go sign up right now. Course is blah, 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 blah. I'm gonna give them the price and let them get started, because I'm gonna take advantage of that time right there. And then I'll probably leave the Super Bowl right after that and get to working on the website.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna say this. They can start tuning in to our podcast and see the first parts of the Red Pill segments. And then from there, you'll be able to tell them where they go after that.
Absolutely.
But I love it. Chris, man, I very much appreciate you coming.
Yeah,
I enjoyed this. I know it took up, a little more time than we got, but it's easy to talk to you. We do go back. I didn't even get into none of those things because I think you got a unique story. I think you are a person in our community that our youth can look at, and they can really see that you are thriving in a professional manner, and you came from where they came from. You are a dot boy. You are absolutely one that's from the same street. So I love that, and may have never said this to you, and if I haven't, it's my fault. I'm very proud of the man you've become and what you've done, and what you accomplished where you are, because. 2 reasons. 1, because you kept your head down, and you've always been a hard worker, work hard. You did it, but then the second part is that you're doing things that you want to do.
Right.
Some people do what they can, other people do what they want,
Yeah, that's
and
true.
you did what you want. I like that. That's a good thing.
Frank Sinatra, man. Did it my way.
Yes, sir.
Nah, I really appreciate you having me. I had a good time, man. And anytime you need me back on, I'll be more than happy to come. If we need to do a segment 2.
Oh, we're going to do
really
another.
get into some other
We
stuff.
still got some more.
Yeah.
We got some more to do.
For sure,
but
man.
They can check you on the Red Pill segment
Yeah.
each week, each on episode with our financial.